Rasa Samvada, we had the opportunity to meet incredible hearts and most talented minds. Through our first experience until now, I think we have just built on this community and we're so happy to see all here. It gives us so much of pleasure to see a lot of like-minded people around, and we are here right now to empower and look out for our fellow designers. So through Rasa Samvada community, we have this beautiful opportunity today to speak to three beautiful minds.
None of y'all landed into this right away. None of all had curvy paths that brought you here, and some very daring decisions, quitting jobs, moving lives, maybe moving cities. Can we start with just a little bit of what your background is, what your story is?
I'm Lavanya and I'm an architect by education, so I do have my 5-year degree. But but I realized I'm a better writer than I'm an architect. And I was just telling a few of our guests that, and I landed here by chance, which is very true. It started with just attending in one of the Zonasa events. There was a lecture by Apurva Bose Datta, who's a pioneer in the profession, and I realized that, oh my god, this business has been around for years, and I'd always felt that I had this passion for writing, but it felt very out of my league.
I'm a software developer by profession in a semiconductor industry firm named Lam Research. So I just quit the job in this January, and I was juggling between the two for like last 5 years, and there were news in the market that Nayan gives the dates only on weekends. So I had to take a call with this or that, and I finally thought, okay, let's go for this. I felt I'd already done a lot of coding in the company, so let's give it a chance for this one. So yeah, that's how it started.
I'm Varuni. I'm a naval officer's daughter. I studied at NIFT and studied fashion design, after which I worked as a stylist and a visual merchandiser and drifted into brand consultancy, and then I was working with luxury brands doing marketing and PR for them. I worked full time with Salvatore Ferragamo when they launched in India. I was with them for 3 years. Then I worked with Montblanc. Then I took a sabbatical from work when I had my son, and I realized that the written word was something I was always interested in. I used to write for fashion magazines pro bono because I was so excited to write. I would call them up and say, do you need a writer? I would really like to write about design.
As designers, it's super challenging from the inception of a project, from convincing a client to battling challenges on site. And by the end of handover, you're drained, right? But tonight's journey is not about that. Tonight's journey is about what happens after we hand over, during handover and after. Nayan, you've actually shot so many projects in the past, 200, 250? What are the kind of challenges that you face with designers? Are some of them repetitive? And are there any key pointers that you can share with designers here so we can keep in mind for our shoots?
Obviously, since it's first time for them, they have not explored it, so it's their first shoot, so they are not well prepared also as to what exactly go behind the scene, behind the shoot. So, what happens is they compare other projects' photos and they show you that I want something like this. That's actually sometimes possible, sometimes not possible, because the lighting conditions, the layout, everything is different. So that's where they have to understand that you cannot exactly expect the same output, but whatever is the space, you will get the shots covered with the best possible ways.
Right now, I've identified, what certain magazines are looking for and what kind of angles works, what doesn't work. Like certain magazines work with certain angles, correct me if I'm wrong, and certain magazines have something else in mind. Do you think you're able to articulate or let them know what works and what doesn't?
As of now, I'm not able to figure out what is their selection criteria from the magazine. But I mean, this is especially for the new designers who are not explored. It's always better to shoot with natural light for the best results. Indoor light is good to good to stay and experience the space. But what happens is it doesn't look good in the photos. The reason is, if you see the year itself, we see the lights are falling and we see shadows casted behind. This doesn't look good in the photographs unless it's a very subtle light and the temperature of the light is less, as in if it's less Kelvin number. Otherwise, it's better to shoot in the natural light. Yeah, there are times they are very adamant. They insist me to shoot because they have installed nice lights. In that case, what I do is I mix the natural light with the indoor light. I don't go till the evening when they want fully indoor lights. So that compensates the yellowness with the natural light.
This is what I have done for the longest time. Once we have the photos from Nayan, we reach out to Lavanya, right? There are so many designers here who cannot articulate the emotions they feel about a space. You've designed something really beautifully. Sometimes it's intuition, sometimes it's what you've learned, sometimes it just feels right. But to kind of articulate that in a way that maybe an editor will be able to understand this is a Herculean task, right? So when we reach out to you, what is your process? Do you have a checklist of questions that you ask designers, and what is the prep work required?
So in my case, and what I'm talking about is slightly unconventional. So when I say I'm an independent design writer, I currently do not work with publications, right? But publications are obviously a very big part of this universe of getting your work out, brand building, and talking about your craft. When it comes to my process, it's almost a little unconventional but poetic. And I think some of the designers over here might empathize. When you create a project, like you said, from intuition to client requirements to client tantrums sometimes, to everything that comes together at the end of it, when you document your work with a writer, whether it's a design journalist, an independent writer, whoever it is the very last time, if you think about it, that a project is truly yours, right? Once it's shot and it's out in myriad publications, online, digital, print, and social media, it's out there for everyone to look at, appreciate, not appreciate sometimes also. So I believe it's the last time that you get to build a narrative that is all yours. It's the last time the voice belongs to you as creators of a space, right? The moment you are covered or published or you're written about, you also become a spectator of your own craft, right? So in terms of process, I work very similarly to say how Nayan or a stylist or a videographer would as a part of your team. I'm behind the scenes, not on the other side of it, which I think is more held by publications and coverage portals. So in this case, the process for me, yes, it is very conversation based. It always helps to know my collaborators a little better, and there are questions that are pretty common, and I don't think it's questions that I've invented per se, but these are questions that I think anyone who's interested to learn about your creation would ask you. So whether it's your concept, inspiration, challenges, and even like my favorite question to ask, and it's a standard part of my interviews, a question as well, is in hindsight, what has been your sort of idea of success with a project? It's almost like tying up, that neat little bow on a project journey that's probably not been very easy as well. So I think there are a common set of questions, and obviously most publications also use them. But for me, it's about creating a long format, detailed narrative, which you as designers are able to channel into multiple portals. So publications is definitely one of them. Social media, your own portfolios, websites, competition entries, all of this is very relevant in today's market. So yeah, a long-winded answer, I guess, to that question. Yeah.
I think it's also important to kind of figure out what your niche is as a designer. What is it that you are trying to say at the end of the day? And there has to be a consistency of that message, whether it's pictures, whether it's in the collateral, and also how you interact and communicate and package that information out. For example, if you look at the flow of things now, even in PR and in print and in publications, there is a certain hierarchy of preferred publications. You have your print editions, which are possibly considered to be, the best outcome. Every designer has control over their digital footprint. And whether you are communicating with a design journalist or a potential client or your competition checking you out, you have to, like I said, have that consistency in messaging, and you have to energize it with that intention, whether it is your personal content on social media, how you communicate it, etc. Designers are thinking about it that I put in so much effort, I have paid a photographer so much of money, why has this got rejected? The project could well be shot in natural light, it could be a great project, but maybe the publication has already published something similar or on the same lines in the previous 2 months, or already has something like that plugged in the months to come, and that could be the reason that a project is rejected. It's not to take it personally, and not to kind of there is no formula-esque way around it. But definitely the first point of contact is the imagery, it is the pictures, because at the end of the day, that's what sells. See, even magazines or digital publications, we are all businesses at the end of the day. And these are businesses that run on imagery. So your imagery has to be very strong. Every publication has brand guidelines, even in terms of what kind of pictures are published. Now, Nayan said something about pictures being shot in natural light. Now, the reason actually for that is, especially for print, when you print pictures which are shot in natural light, they look posher. So the magazine looks more aspirational. So, it has nothing to do with what lovely lights you may have put in the project. We are an industry too, and we are catering to just like designers have to cater to their clientele, publications have to cater to their clientele. So you kind of have to, you know, um, see things from that perspective as well, and not take rejections personally. It's a process. Engage with design journalists, develop a relationship with them so that they know what you're up to. It doesn't necessarily have to be with the intention of, oh, publish me, or else I really don't want to, communicate or keep in touch with you or let you know what I'm doing. The fact of the matter is that even from an editorial perspective, we are all the time working on different types of stories. So maybe your project doesn't get published the way that you would like it to be, but you could get, interviewed as a feature for Q&A on how to do mood lighting in a home, or, there are different variables. So you have to be open to that, and try and do a little bit of research into who are the accounts, IG accounts you enjoy. Try and see how they groom their, visuals, the way their captions are written. The story and the background of who the homeowners are, what their aspirations are, what is the reference to context of those design discussions. Those are actually more interesting even from a editorial perspective and a story perspective. It's not just, this is the material palette, this is the color palette, this is the northern light that we leveraged. I would really like to know that, maybe there's this man who is the homeowner who went to some Picasso museum and really loved a print there and asked for the palette to be inspired from a particular painting, or it just makes that a little more interesting from a design journalist point of view, from a reader's point of view. So when you package your material, you have to think about who's ultimately going to be consuming it as well.
Different architects approach different editorials and magazines. Do you think that they should write a little bit about themselves as well?
A particular genre of design that you are really drawn to, and it could be that you don't want to necessarily put yourself in a box. Maybe at this particular phase a designer is into mid-century or art deco or whatever. That's fine. It could be like Picasso with your blue period and your cubist period, If it is client-centric, then I want to know what specific types of clients maybe you like, it can't be every type of client.
So we have been speaking, with respect to a process, to even approach an editor. Do you think we're doing it the right way? Like Kavya also has mentioned, I think most of us do the ways that she has mentioned.
You're not going to be able to have the bandwidth to really consume very, very detailed design notes at the time of submission, at least. Me not having to download the pictures or looking at them just as a thumbnail, but I can open it on a drive link, it pops on my screen, and I can, see it as a full screen image and really kind of consume the pictures and give them the consideration they deserve. I can look at the Word document, that is with the pictures, to really kind of get into it in a little more deeper sense, and reach out to journalists individually on WhatsApp, get their numbers, and send them a message first. Please don't cold call. It's really literally like somebody calling you for a loan. you know, I've sent you a project. Are you going to publish it? Will it be on the cover? It is so disorienting. So that's what I said. You have to see it from the other person's point of view as well. See it through the lens of, how relevant and interesting the information you are sharing is to that person and to their universe. If I have given a commitment to 5 designers already for a particular theme and your project doesn't fit into it, that could be the reason that your project has been rejected.
I remember I had attended a session with Nanda, where he was also a very celebrated photographer, and he was doing something about getting featured, and it was a young sort of crowd who was attending the session, and that's what he said. It's like it's a tiny door, and everyone's trying to make it through that exit, right? And if you don't make it, it isn't personal. Number one, although it's very hard to take, but tying back to what Barney said, to the same point I was trying to make, that making your footprint visible, considering print is not an option in some cases, is in your hands. So the advice that I give, and please feel free to weigh in, both of you, all of you, is that you get to put yourself out there as much as is possible with digital print as well. The turnover is more. They are looking at, publishing way more projects. And as a young studio, I mean anything between 0 to 5 years, I would still consider very young. It's your job to be out there as much as you can. Your potential client is on Google. They are looking at interior designer Bangalore, interior designer China, interior designer maybe. You know what I mean? This is what the SEO looks like. So, for example, while print will always have its prestige, I mean, I'm biased too. But the point is that your future client is probably on Instagram hunting for you. I've had clients who tell me they've landed a project for their daughters and sons who are anything between the age range of 15 to 25 have found them on Instagram and said, hey, this one's work looks staffing, we should hire them because I want to admit that.
I remember briefly speaking to you long ago about a concept note, and you did mention about all those things. When Madhuri says that you're actually short, you have so much to express at times. How do you how do you guide us on articulating it and making it best short and crisp?
What I have observed and what I do follow in terms of process, especially today, is that when I'm working with a studio, one of the first questions you pose is that they don't have the language to articulate what they want. Sometimes there are very in-house strong designers who also have a very great gravitas for writing, expressing, or have great employees and interns also who do it really well in some cases. But my idea is almost like she said, your photos also are not just for the intention to get published. Not every project of every studio gets published, let's face it, right? But point being, you need to, what I work with in terms of principle is a longer format. What you're then channeling out is up to you. So for example, now the learning that a lot of studios are taking back is going to be a crisper concept mode. So when I would really help you in some cases with a very detailed narrative, pick out the best parts that probably work for you. Maybe a portion from the inspiration, maybe a portion from a certain design detail, materiality that you think is very unique to your project and you haven't been seeing it in the work of your community lately. So I think it's also about curation as a designer, because finally you're the ones who have the creative rights of a project, right? It is you who's choosing to target your top 3 publications, right? It is you who's choosing to put your work online. So I think in terms of brevity could be 5 lines about a project, brevity could be 5,000 words in some cases, because there are some clients who have details in inches even, and I'm fortunate to work with them as well. But my point is, I think now that we're taking that learning home, it's about carving out what you need from the longer format, because I also often joke that once if you hire man, which you will many times after, but my point is, if your site is ready for a photo shoot, you're not going to go in 30 times and shoot it. once in one segment. If you've done it, you're going to do it properly and then once. Writing is a part of storytelling in my practice, in the sense, since I'm not working as a design journalist, as an independent writer, it's about doing it once, doing it right, and from there it's your decision to cut it out into how many other streams you want. In digital, social media, website, competitions, etc. So I think that's the essence of it. That if you do it once, you do it with posterity also. And everyone likes a story. Like, why do we love like Pixar movies? There's a story, right? Even for you as designers, you're telling a story about it. It's not, you will get featured, maybe your project gets picked up even across 10, publications, online, print, anything. But at the end of the day, it's also for you to look back at what that project meant to you. It's today your team might be 5, tomorrow it might be 50, a couple of years down. You're still able to look at your records and be like, oh, this is where Leanne was at when she did this home, and this was her thought process there.
Our experience again when we're dealing with certain magazines, even after we submit a concept note, the editors of that magazine come back to us with certain questions and then we come back to you, right, most often. So in that case, do you reach out to these? Do you plan in advance, or do you guide the designer that he reach out to a magazine? They will give you questions and then you bring them to you. Okay. And follow up to that, how long is the turnaround time? What are the rates? How many words you want to give us?
So this, I will say, is no standard across the board, because I still feel it is a very untapped sort of area of work as design writers, not as design journalists. Now, design journalists are a different stream of work. So over here, it also depends on how many projects a certain writer is able to take on a monthly basis. For example, in my case, one of my sort of very trusted belief, as cliched as it sounds, is quality over quantity. I would rather have 3 projects on my desk, but I'll do my best that month for those 3, versus having 30 and doing a very sort of moderate and a so-so job for those 3, right? I would say that brief, it completely depends, right? Depends on the scale and scope of a project. Also, there are 2 BHKs that are loaded with detail, right? And then there are 5,000 square foot homes that are very sparse. Like, it totally depends on the scale and scope of the project. But I don't know, and Varni can definitely add to this, but anything between 500 to 1,000 words in general long format is acceptable in my sense, and in what I've been doing. That can be further cut down. Now, to answer the question about writing for questionnaires for publications, a lot of times, and this is something I must accept, a lot of times that studios have worked with me, they have been faced with questions from the publication. 9 out of 10 times those questions are answered in what we're creating, because the questions, like I said, are not invented by me. They are basic questions that are common to international as well as national publications, because at this point I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of questionnaires come in, and it covers everything that you're looking for. And if there's an aspect that's not been covered, say they've asked us a very novel question that needs addressing, of course we can go back in and detail out that part, or you as a designer can give a blurb to the design journalist who's writing it and saying, okay, sure, if you feel like what we've created has not helped out with this, I'm happy to answer. But a lot of times what we're creating is long format, and that is then being adapted to the 10 or 12 questions that you're getting. So you can even use what we're creating to answer these multiple questionnaires, right? So I think it's really recycling and being smart if you think about it.
So, Varuni, you did speak about, when people document the work and it gets rejected, not to take it personally. Yeah. A lot of us, we do take it personally, but, but yeah, we do understand the crux of it. Now, speaking about, when we present our work and document and place it on social media, there are a lot of times that probably the editors are not looking at that project right now, but preferably after 3 months or so that y'all are looking out for it. Do y'all research on, designers who have put out pictures or IGTVs?
Part of being a design journalist, and I said that in the video as well, is discovery. There's no point for any publication or magazine to just keep putting the usual suspects and having the same type of work being seen. And I think this universe has exploded. You have a lot of people doing some really, really creative, wonderful things. I spend close to over 2 hours a day on IG. At least an hour and a half of that is just research. And research, that means even what's happening internationally, nationally. You kind of go into this, IG wormhole, which I think everyone can identify with. You start off somewhere else and you're, maybe seeing a mural being made by some young artist in Gujarat or something like that. So, part of even our editorial meetings are that we sit and everybody kind of brings, oh, see what I discovered, who I discovered. I think this person's work is interesting for, XYZ reasons. And IG is the tool for the first point of contact for that. If it's a cover story, for example, we would like for it to be exclusive, wherein nobody has seen it so far, even digitally. Because again, like I said, you have to see it from the point of view of the other side of the table. Now, as a publication, if print is not an easy business to be in. It's a hard business to run and to be profitable. And one of the USPs that you need to have as a print magazine is that you are printing something that is original and which hasn't been seen before in another publication, and isn't something that's very, that's been advertised in digitally extensively. So there are times when we've made an exception that, a project has been showcased, let's say, in an international online publication, and then we've carried it in print as well. So, you have to do a little bit of a pivot and see it from that perspective. And that's where exclusivity comes in, and that's why we ask for it. And that's why, in fact, one of the things I would suggest is if you are targeting print magazines, do them one at a time. Get your rejection, then go to the next one, and then the next.
If I have, I'm an architect, I've sent you my project, I'm still waiting on a reply from a certain publication. How long do I need to wait before, number one, I send it to the next? That's number one. And number two, if I put it up on my Instagram in the meantime, and I'm not reaching out to any other publication, it's just on my personal Instagram, is that a deterrent?
It should be exclusive for a particular magazine, but designers can still upload on their page.
On their page and on their website, but not on another publication's website, not another digital publication, not another.
And this applies for digital and print.
Well, definitely for print. Honestly, I haven't worked in a digital magazine, so I'm not very clear about their.
Is there an issue of the landscape to photos? And with the pressure of IGT, what is your view about videos? How important is that?
But regarding your question about Asia, of whether it should be vertical or horizontal, so I don't have a preset notion that I will shoot so many verticals, and so it actually really depends on the space. What I'm trying to show. If I'm showing space, then I would go for a horizontal shot. If I'm going for a tighter shot, I'm showing something which is specifically to be shown, then it's a vertical shot. Yeah, so there is no preset notion that I have to go for these many verticals. So yeah, but of course Instagram do prefer vertical. Like people do say that let's do more verticals, but I do not agree with them. I take a call based on the layout. Yeah.
A design note into answers for a questionnaire. The same way you can use photographs to create videos as well. And the second thing is that if you want to know in terms of numbers for print publications, I would like to look at maybe anywhere between 20 to 30 shots, and then say yes, I would for a project for me to print it. So this would mean anywhere between 6 to 10 page layout, depending on the complexity of the project. I would like to look at least anywhere between 20 to 30 pictures of a project to really get a sense of it. Let's say you have this 20 to 30 pictures, and I have said yes, we would like to cover your project in print. So that on average, let's say it's an 8 to 10 page layout. On some pages we could use 4 pictures. There could be one landscape shot that you use on the left and right as a big composite. So which is why you need that variation to play around with, where the short list then happens, and we figure out which are the hero pictures. And another thing is, always shoot if you're shooting a home, especially, please shoot the kitchen and bathroom areas as well. It's surprising how many times those areas are kind of neglected. And again, it boils down to mandates. A lot of publications have a mandate that you need to show the house in its totality. So it's not enough that it has a great living room and a nice balcony and a garden and a bedroom. We are mandated to carry pictures of the kitchen and the powder rooms. So, that I don't know how useful that. Maybe it's a foregone conclusion that you shoot the whole house, but there have been times where we haven't had pictures of the kitchen area or.
A lot of cases, especially the smaller budget projects where studios are working, bathrooms and kitchens are left builder grade for a lot of. I'm just saying from the client's perspective, designers can do it for the gods, but then what happens in those cases?
No, we would reject it because you see that's where the brand guidelines of the magazine comes, right? You have to see it from again what is the experience that would be immersive for our reader. That's why these guidelines are there in place. So there is a certain amount of consistency, and a lot of the print publications that do architecture and interior design are all international publications, a whole bunch of them at least. So for Living Etc., for example, is a UK publication that's also available in Dubai and Thailand and America. But from Living Etc.'s point of view and their brand guideline point of view, someone who picks up a Living Etc. in America needs to experience the same quality and the same look and feel that somebody in India is experiencing with the India edition. So that is the reason behind it. Again, it's not personal, but the magazines are also brands in their own respect, and they have their own sort of limitations which are set.
At this point, like Varney said, most publications have international counterparts. Like even their origin is overseas. It's not in India in a lot of cases. This is more of an observation, and I'm not sure it's concrete. But I think what happens with international press notes, which are usually slightly crisper, shorter, and in case my pieces that have been carried internationally, I have noticed that the concept note is a lot more abstract versus detail oriented. In most Indian coverage, mostly digital, some print, I'm sure, like she said, it's also about brand guidelines. But when we are discovering homes, which is everyone's favorite category, it sells like hotcakes at all times. It's a lot more detail oriented. Our culture in Indian homes, there's a puja room in Indian homes. It's not necessarily there in other homes across the world, right? It becomes an element that's sort of native to us as a nationality, as such. So what happens over here is that we love detail. International press notes are a lot more abstract. They do focus, I feel, a lot more on look, feel, yes, materiality, structural details, yes, in some case when it's an architectural project, and sometimes even interior projects have a lot of structural intervention. The place doesn't look the same from before and after. So I think that abstractness is slightly different in both the publications. And with ChatGPT, I have a lovely relationship. I also said in my video interview that I am someone who's very sort of a tech noob. Okay, so and I also believe ChatGPT as an engine to be used by anyone. It does not have to be a writer or a journalist. For anyone in this room to use it, they're still developing. It needs a lot more human intervention and almost like prodding to get what you want. Like the prompts have to be a lot more detailed and nuanced for you to get the output you want. I don't believe that anything human can ever be replaced. It's the same as buying something machine made and someone like a carpenter working on a piece of furniture. Human touch is something that can be customized, nuanced, and detailed in some sense. But ChatGPT is a very sort of easy to use tool for, say, studios where in-house writing or outsourcing writing is not an option. You are able to sort of create prompts based on images in some engines now. You are able to create prompts based on some keywords in some engines now. it works. Do I think it's foolproof? No. Do I think it's here to replace any of us? No. But it is a smart tool to use if you're using it minimally. That's my take on it at the moment.
You have at least rejected a photograph saying that it's overstyled. So I want you to speak a little bit about the styling aspect.
Actually, it really depends on the theme of the project. So, for example, if it's a Japandi or Scandi, it has to be less stylish. It cannot be maximized. But the opposite of it can also be possible. But if you mix both, then it's not definitely not will come. Like, so, yeah, I mean, I have come across many stylists who style a lot for a minimal project. It's style. But it may not work out for the branding perspective.
Yeah, it's a little bit like putting an outfit together. No? I throw a printed scarf on top of this and some, colorful bracelets and maybe some, jazzy choker or something. It's going to take away.
What are PR agencies? Do designers today need PR agencies? Can we approach you directly, and is there any difference?
I prefer being approached directly, honestly. But PR agencies are a part of the system and part of the sort of ecosystem of marketing and public relations. Whoever and whichever firm that someone does decide to go with, I think it's important to not just to speak to the senior management or decision makers of that PR agency. You need to actually have a direct interaction with the actual person of who will be the point of contact, who is communicating with the press or whoever about your work, about your projects. They need to be, trained as spokespersons. They need to be trained on certain, etiquette. Again, it's common sense. It's like if you were being approached, you don't want somebody just cold calling and dialing your number. It could be that your work is great, but a PR person, who's a PR agency that's assigned maybe a very junior, inexperienced person. That's what I remember about the designer then. I make that association. So while you may go with the PR agency, for sure sit down with the person who's actually going to be communicating about your work.
To exactly what Varni said, as a client, and I'm talking from the perspective of an architect or an interior designer, they are your public relations manager. That's the full form, right? The idea is that you might not, after a certain part of your career, have the bandwidth to do this personally, or you might lack the, basically it's usually bandwidth to do it. Otherwise it's nothing else. Otherwise everyone wants to do this on their own. But I think it's very important for the publications or the portals being approached to know who's the face behind the brand, right? So if today, for example, Studio was to work with a PR agency, I think it's essential for Kavya to have that connection, not only with her PR agency, but also every portal that they're reaching out to with her consent that, hey, I am backing this up. They are my spokesperson. And I am validating what's happening to you in communication. Because, like Varni said, it's someone inexperienced or someone who's not probably adept to handle what's being given to them. That's what's being projected about your firm, which could be the furthest thing from the truth, basically. So it's important to have skin in the game even while you're paying someone to do this for you. They are here to increase your footprint, print, digital, in any form, your communications, your appearances. And I think it's a great job, it's a noble job, and it's very deeply interlinked with a lot of the design community. But people need to know who it is behind that. Because I often tell architects who are on the lookout for a PR agency, I'm like, you have my blessing. But the day that person's not working for you, they walk away with your connection as well. It's very important that as designers, you have those conversations. You reach out to those journalists. You reach out to the editors. Introduce yourself. Who are you and why are you being represented? So in that case, it's very important to hire the right agency also, or the right professional also. I feel like that's an addition to that aspect.
The new designers, those who don't have any project shot till now, they're shooting the first one. So obviously they will not have any content on their page. But when they apply to new feature, be it digital or print, you obviously go to their page and see the work. There will be nothing in there. Does that affect the overall?
Yeah, a little bit, but that's where I said you can develop an IG page. They can put in. There is a way of compiling your work, right? It's like even a student who is just passed out of architecture college, you don't have to put together a portfolio whether or not you've actually done a project.
There's
So
not something that is not.
yeah, you can communicate your aesthetic and what your kind of aesthetic point of view is also. Right? There are different ways of doing it. I think that's the beauty of IG now. They can put themselves on camera, and talk about it. There's a lot of ways of playing with that. When it comes to print, there are different verticals of monetizing. You obviously have your print ad campaigns, and then a lot of the print magazines have websites and an IG profile themselves. Now, in terms of advertising, what happens is you get traditional print ads. You get a package deal of print ads, maybe something on the website and something on socials. The magazine could host an event for a brand, and they get paid for that. Then you have something called advertorials, which is basically paid editorials. Now, this is a little bit of a gray area, because what this is it's basically an ad, but it's in the form of a article. So it's a little bit disguised in terms of, when you see a print ad, there's usually, what do you have? You have a picture, you have the name of, typical ad campaign picture, you have the brand and maybe the name of the collection. What happens is that sometimes the brand wants to communicate certain nuances about a particular collection, or let me give you an example. Now, the specifications of those pet-friendly fabrics could not be necessarily communicated in just an ad. You have to get into a little bit of the detail of it. So it's a little bit like you need to write an article. So the ad looks like an article, reads like an article, but there will be some sort of a tag or slug, what we call, on top, where it will be marked as promotion or advertorial, or in some cases it's called special feature. So that is basically paid for. Now, some magazines, now again, it depends on ethics and what you're willing to, what part of the magazine is up for sale. So there are some who even carry designers in their projects, but it would always be marked as special feature, advertorial, promotion, something like that.
Actually, I'm an aspiring writer. So my first question is, I am actually a little bit scared to get into publications, like print publications, to write, because I see a kind of Shashi Tharoor English all the way, but I'm not good at that. So in fact, I had an argument, not an argument really, but one of the writers who was working for us, again, we have freelancers who do work for us, and something about the balcony being, or the outdoor area being, this lovely place to interact with feathered friends. I said, did you mean birds? So, no, actually our guidelines are that it needs to be conversational, it needs to be good English, but there is no point in design writing being verbose anymore. That is looked down upon, in fact, in design journalism, because it is not practical. Since I'm an aspiring, I did go to a few architects and tried to tell them the importance of write-ups, but then they were like writing for their pages all there. But then they were not, they were ready to do it for free. Free में कर दो, हम ले लेंगे, देख लेंगे. And they were not, some few people were not convinced that writing is important. We just need photos, that's all what is important to us. Actually, speaking to a publication is a wrong idea, because it is very less. I'm just saying, our freelance writers, one of the reasons we pay so low to them is because they get their byline seen in a magazine. So initially, if you have to start out in something like this,
Today you start as an intern in a publication or a PR agency and work your way up. So you have a better understanding of what expectations are and what you need to deliver. Or you need to work free and build your portfolio and put your stuff as a blog online so that there is some, a little bit like how I told the architects to build their portfolio, it's the same thing that you would need to do as well.
If you're good at something, you do not need to do it for free for sure. Can you start out by making the rates competitive? Yes, you can. And I think with like any other career, the longer you do it, the better you are at it. You are in a position to charge for it. An architect who's charging what they charge in their first year and fifth year of their practice is not, in my opinion, not doing it right. You have gained experience, you have made the mistakes, your work is credible. Maybe yes, like Vaini said initially, putting together a portfolio is important. And I put it together in the most unconventional, and also I was terrible at it. I did it at a time Instagram was still picking up, and everything I did is what I tell you to not do. I called, I emailed, I Facebook messaged and Insta DM'd at the same time. No one wants to be hounded like that, but it worked. I got away with it, but I learned that it wasn't the right way to get, to where I am today. But I think just incredible work at affordable prices to get started, but please don't do it for free. If it's a skill set you have and the other people in their office don't have it, if they don't have it, please don't. Like I would say, stick up, charge affordably if that's their competitive point, if that's the reason you'll get picked over another writer, fair enough. But I would say figure out what works for you to honor your time and effort over it. If you spend 1 hour on the piece, 12 days on the piece, 5 hours on the piece, there has to be a number that you have in mind that works for you, and if it works for them, it does, I guess. It is a luxury. Photos are a necessity. You can't do anything without a camera. Okay, number one. But I agree that styling, writing and videography are still a luxury for 90% of the studios. You do not make enough money initially to afford all these collaterals and collaborators. The day you can, great, more the merrier. We're bringing in more, more punches to what you're creating. But is writing necessary? I don't think it is, for that matter. I don't think I should be saying this out loud, but I believe it's a luxury. And it's fine. And if you can't afford it, that's also okay. But if you are putting in the effort and going out of your way to create it, I think you can put some price to it that works for them, at least for the early part of your portfolio. Matter of fact, I didn't do it full time at the get-go. I worked a full-time job, which used to at least take up 15 to 16 hours of my day, after which I would write. Writing was my pocket money for a very, very long time. So it's completely okay to do it as a side gig while you can figure out if it's within your league to get full time.
I'm sure a lot of people over here seem to be thinking the same thing. It's not all about us. It's never about. It's also businesses, different perspectives, different angles that we all have spoken about today. Just one question though, Varuni, for you is this one thing that we didn't address. I know all of us, when we start off initially, we've started off with bathrooms and one bedrooms, and personally all of us have, right? And we've gone on to now maybe doing 7-figure, 6-figure projects. But does budget matter? Because I understand you saying the whole house matters.
Absolutely not.
So even the 2-bedroom, the whole thing with it's like a 25 lakh, 30 lakh budget is fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's refreshing. That's also like very assuring to hear.
Most definitely. There is no. It could be we have featured one like tiny 1-bedroom cabin in Missouri somewhere. No. Budget is of no concern.
Like fashion, like you would want someone to aspire to have those kind of things. So luxury, projects can be featured.
No, they are featured. In fact, one of the most prolific and editorially sought after architects at the moment is Vimu Daniel, who basically constructs with Dimple. And mud. Those are his raw materials. But if you see the kind of work that he does, it's so creative and it's so interesting and sustainable.
When you say new studios or somebody like me who's probably 1 year into the industry and does not have a project or a portfolio or something to show, while I'm trying to fill my IG page with probably some random reel, some tips and tricks, something which probably everybody's doing. Let's face it, it's nothing new. So how do somebody, pick up on you or take a chance on you? Because at the end, if it's a high ticket item, like we all have this category, somebody has to take a chance on you, right? To bring that credibility. So how do you bring it through marketing or through PR or through publications? Like from at the start, or what can we look out for that, okay, we may not be doing it right now, but probably if we keep a focus on that, in a year's time, in 2 years' time, we are there where we want to reach. I mean, some tips and tricks is something that I'm looking for as a new designer, that what can I focus on?
Show us what you like. For
Okay.
example, you come to the Bauhaus store, you take pictures of 5 pieces you really like, you make a poster of it.
Okay.
So even your aesthetic over a period of time organically will come through on your IG page, right? It could be furniture pieces, it could be other, 5 bedrooms you really like, or that would look like potentially the kind of work you would do. There are ways of communicating your aesthetic. You can, please don't plagiarize anyone's work. You can obviously put a tag saying, the pictures are from so and so, or whatever it is. But, you could go to a carpet store like Jaipur Rugs and say, hey, there's a sale on, and I think these 4 carpets are what I really love.
Your design practice is not limited to documenting a project. From meeting a client to getting the most exciting project you worked on in a long time, creating that mood board, BTS, a karigar at your site, creating something very interesting. I hate to sound cheesy about it, but everything can be content if you want it to be content, right? And I know everyone's putting out the BTS, everybody's putting out the material palette, but also this is 90%, if not more, of a project's journey. What someone is seeing in print or on social media or as beautiful photos is the end product. It is not even 5% of what's come through, right?
It's not about just generating content or presenting a point of view. Let's say if you go to a design show or something you're seeing, you're capturing it. You've been in form of stories or reels. That is showing your point of view somewhere, but at the same time, and that's a feeling, and I may be absolutely wrong, that if let's say it's an 80 design show, and there are 1,000 designers going, they're all seeing the same thing, probably all capturing from the same lens, or maybe some light reflection. We all can probably see overlapping things, right? So now how do you create a persona of yourself digitally where you stand out, or at least maybe I'm not able to see it yet, maybe I'm still learning, but is there a way wherein you can probably create a different or an innovative point of view?
There is very little, I hate to say this, but this a lot of architects have told me, it's very rare that, especially in urban areas, that you get building projects. Even a lot of architects are having to do interior work, and most of that is curation. Not everybody is designing custom furniture and fixtures for the projects. It's curation at the end of the day. So you can curate.
What if somebody says I'm copying, or what if somebody says it's not my own point of view? While it may sound similar, but like you said, it could be.
Interior designers and architects, the biggest thing that I think we all can sort of relate to each other are the hardships of it, right? So I'm just going to give an example. For example, Issa J's atelier, whose page literally blew up in the pandemic because we were all home and on our phones. Her highest performing reels are not her projects. It's 10 things I'm going to include in my contract. It's 10 mistakes I made with my early clients. My point is there's so much within content which is practice based and not even close to design. There are chances people will not like your design, but there are chances that they will relate to the challenges in your practice as an entrepreneur, as an architect, as an interior designer. So, like I said, everything can be recycled into content in some sense.
Both can share your initial stages when you started publishing. It would be really nice.
I don't remember being afraid of work in progress.
I don't remember when I got onto Instagram that people were putting out half-baked photos, right? But I really enjoyed it. The little grooves in the marble, the way one material meets the other, the kind of hinges you do. So it was those little tidbits, lots of dusty sides. If something, there was a picture perfect moment in the chaos, I would post a little bit about that. So the initial
Kavya puts her dusty feet also sometimes.
all the time. And I think to a large extent, it's also about being consistent. So either you like it or you don't. If you like it, you enjoy it. If you don't, you have somebody else to do it, like we spoke about earlier. I really enjoy it. So it's not coming from a place of force. And this is a conversation that I have with my partner many times now. It either comes naturally or it doesn't, right? But you can give it a shot. If there is, if there is fear, there is awkwardness, you haven't done it before, at least give it a shot. So those were the initial few photos, and then I think there were a bunch of mood boards, again, like we spoke about earlier. Reels were not a thing back then, so just lots of palettes put together, material palettes, mood boards put together, and then slowly, as and when we finished projects, like last year I said some time ago, the initial few projects were one bedroom, but who cares? It's okay, celebrate the one room that you have done and be proud of it. I'd also like to add that for the longest time, I shared a lot of this content on my personal Facebook handle, which is in the name of Kavya Sage, and my personal Instagram handle, because you have friends, acquaintances, family following you there, right? And they get a gist of what your understanding is, how you think, and what can spread from anywhere.
I do have a fear of rejection. Yeah, I have at this moment my team filming me, but yeah, I have to say it out loud. So the first few projects that we put out, and I feel that certain mistakes that a lot of us do is probably we won't research the right photographer to capture the right moments. We won't research what the magazines are looking for. We won't take that time to do that. And some of my good works were shot not in daylight. They were shot with the beautiful lights that we selected. So a few learnings through time. That was one. The other part of it was there was this one project I didn't think that it could get published, and I focused on another, thinking all my heart and soul that this will be the cover page. I still have that picture as my dream board, saying that has to be the cover page. But answering your question, it took a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes, and I wish I had done and asked people the right way. Even approaching, like you said, approaching different editorials through Instagram and saying, hey, hi, I have this project, but not putting my heart and soul of what I have to say, but probably writing myself on certain aspects about it, but writing a long note, which probably could be one of the rejects. It took an understanding that probably get the right photographer, because your aim is documenting it. Get a good writer, and if you can write, then do write your heart into the project, yeah. And I did that. I wrote my heart into it, and then I wrote a small note to the editor saying that this is what I think about it, and this is what I feel, and probably given an opportunity, I'd like the world to see it, and that's it. And I did not lose hope. I was waiting, saying that okay, these magazines are going to probably publish, exclusivity, all that, everything we've chosen and waiting on it. We didn't, I do have priorities on which magazines I was looking at, but probably didn't reach to that. But got the magazines that would be a choice as well. And we celebrated when we got our first one.
Rejection is still something that is okay and eventually you deal with it. Or what about when you don't get a response at all? I'm not sure if a lot of people have gone through this, but I sometimes end up not getting a response at all, and I will always tell me no follow up for her, it's okay.
No, I know. I personally get 25 to 30 submissions, and I'm talking about projects, and I'm not talking about brand PR content. I'm not talking about product press releases, event invites, when I open my inbox in the morning, if it's genuinely not humanly possible to answer everybody in a considered fashion, you know. So sometimes what happens is I should be replying to everybody, but it doesn't happen. So it's not for the lack of merit to the email you've received. It's just the sheer volume is overwhelming. There could be deadlines that it's like anything else, right?
You're running a business, you're paying salaries, you're running homes. So it's never the reason why you take up a project. A publication is like a trophy, it's recognition, digital, print. It's like saying, hey, we love what you do, but at the same time, like she said, it's not personal. So what's your plan B? Is what I think people do not think about when they start outreach.
For photo documentation, would you recommend signing a contract?
I don't. I should.
There are architects who are very, no, I want like this at this angle, I want that angle. So they are very stingy. You can't change their mind. So would you recommend or do you practice it?
I get such inquiries as to know recently some person made me ask for a shoot, and in the note they had mentioned that angles and certain other things will be decided by us, and I replied, I'm not going ahead with this project. Because if they are hiring some creative person, they should be given liberty. If you want to get hired, you will need portfolios. Newbie obviously will not have. So you can start by, say, it's interiors, right? You can shoot your friends home. Anyone who has good interiors, then just get that documented and put up in some portfolio somewhere to your Instagram. When I started, I did not have Instagram, so I used other mediums. Yeah, build a small portfolio and reach out to some designers. Start with this lesser amount and slowly will work.
How soon should you start shooting your first project? It may be not that great, okay, let's admit it. Our first projects are not really what we would like to achieve. So, should you probably put in the effort of styling it a little more, probably from your extra pocket money or design fees, whatever you call it, and get it done? Even for Instagram, for your portfolio, just to have it in place, or you should only spend on posing something which you really like, which something like as a designer you would want to be associated in a pure sense. Like I'm not saying that all the work that we do is great or very bad, even if it's above average, but above average and good has a long way to go. So what is the right time to probably get a photographing or videos done for your project?
Is a very important aspect for any project. Okay, even if the project is great, you really need to be well staged. Okay, even if it's a good photographer, if it's not well styled, it will definitely not work. So I would say that you definitely need to. I understand it's a budget concept for the beginners, but take it as an investment. It will pay out for sure.
So where you mentioned about creating a niche in the work, like mid-century modern or any kind of thing. So I'm a beginner, okay, and there is a thing, I have done a minimal project. My personal style is Indian modern, and I'm doing a project which is very luxe looking. So do you think it will help me out to do these kind of different projects, or should I stick to a niche?
One of our preliminary calls, I asked Varini the same question. I said a lot of times that young designers start their studios, they're not getting the kind of work that they resonate with. You need to make the buck, you need to start the practice. So how do you get recognized for your style? So you said India modern or Indian modern, but you are doing something very perhaps maximalist. So Varini had said that every time that you get a project, it's not important to do the entire project in your vocabulary because it's not possible. That's not what your client's paying you for. But even if it's that one niche or nook or one statement piece that talks about your design language that's native to your studio, that could do the trick. And when you're sharing it, put more emphasis on that.